All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio, and this week we're pleased to have on the interview portion of the program Chief Jay Eagle. And Chief Eagle's been around a long time. We give him a lot of coverage here on the radio program. Charlie always gives his results and goes over and visits Chief. I hadn't seen Chief in a few years, so I'm so thrilled to me to have him back on and talk to him. I've known you, Chief, probably about 20 years on and off.
Pretty good while.
Been a long time. But welcome to the program, Chief Jay Eagle. Chief, how you been doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me down, boys.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the radio with us. I know you're up in your TP right about now, and you got your fire water, right?
Oh, yeah, got the fire water over here to get me cranked up today.
Smoke a little peace pipe and get ready to roll here with us, huh?
I don't know about all that.
Well, Chief, again, I appreciate you coming on. I tell you what, for the people who may not know who you are, and I can't believe there's anybody out there who does, but the people who might not know, tell us a little bit about your history and what you do and what got you into the business, Chief.
Well, I started in 1978. I seen a little wrestling school going on in Spartanburg, went in and checked things out, went in and worked out with the guys, and supposedly back in them days you trained for 6 weeks and you'd start wrestling. I went in and I guess I probably went 2 weeks in a row, and they had a show coming up and they wanted to put me on it. And I said, well, hey, wait a minute. I hadn't been here but a few weeks. And they said, oh, you're doing good as some of the guys that's training. So there I was. I was 1978, Rick.
Yeah, that was your very first spot, huh?
Very first spot. And a bad thing about it is Mama went to the show, and here I was wrestling 2 masked guys. They was switching in and out, beating my partner up, and I look up, and Mama's standing over me. She won't let neither one of them get to me. So I'm like, Mama, get the hell out of the ring. She said, you get the hell out of the ring. So
she
kind of an embarrassing situation for probably the next year. Every dressing I went to, everybody would say, well, I'll fight Eagle if his mama's not with him. So
that's awesome.
So that was my start right there.
That was your very first match, huh?
My very first match. I don't know why I had to take Mom and Dad.
That's great, Chief. It was several years before you actually got into the promotion side of it, right?
Well, it probably 5 years. I just they was so many people but running back in them days, what you call outlaw shows or independent shows, and I just seen a lot of guys in the ring with no boots and no gear, and I was in another marriage and she didn't want me to travel, so I thought I'd just open up my own organization in Landrum, South Carolina. They was Palmetto Gym up there that was empty, and I went up and talked to them, and the old gym was just sitting there, and so I cranked that thing up, and it went on for about probably a year, and then from there I had some friends, Danny Doyle and some guys that went up to Lexington, Kentucky and worked for Angelo Poffo and Randy Savage, and apparently they had talked about me up there and they wanted me to come up, so that was my first trip for a group that wasn't just an outlaw group.
Now, what year was that, Chief?
Early 80s. I'm thinking somewhere around probably 82 or 83.
So that was right before Savage and Lanny went into the big time, right?
Yeah. They had Miss Elizabeth, which she was our coat girl up there, and Randy said, well, when you get up here, Chief, I got you somewhere to stay, so I'm expecting a big fancy motel when I get up there, and I didn't know it was going to be on his living room floor, so I ended up and stayed with Macho Man a couple of weeks, just sleeping on his floor on an old mattress. Miss Elizabeth was living with him in, and they'd have a booking meeting every Friday morning. All the guys would come over, Bob Orton Sr. and Ronnie Garvin and Pez Watley and Ernie Ladd and Bob Rube. Lord, I can't remember who all was up there. Apache Lou, which was Luis Martinez, which is a Mexican doing an Indian gimmick.
Yeah, right.
So right away, I got stuck with being his nephew. So,
is that right?
Yeah, and we had a little feud going with some Samoans, which was T.O. I don't know if you remember him in the Mid-Atlantic area.
Oh, yeah.
And his son, Tapu. So we sort of done a uncle-nephew angle with the father-son team, and I stayed for 3 weeks, and they jumped me on TV, blooded me up, carried me out, put me in the ambulance, and they played it up real big, and I think T.O. had a big angle going with Apache Lou after I left.
Yeah. Now, let's back up just a little bit, Chief. And you said you actually stayed with Randy Savage there for a little while. And, he's got a reputation for being pretty much a wild man. Did you see any of that yourself personally back in those days?
Well, no. In actually being around him in his apartment there, he was real laid back and easygoing, and I didn't see any of that at all. Now, he come alive when he got in front of the cameras, but
right.
He was kind of like, I'd compare him to Ivan Koloff, laid back, until he got in character. And then once he got in character, he was just a whole different person.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, the first time I met Ivan, I was shocked at how just easygoing he was and how soft-spoken he was.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the way Randy is. I mean, when he talked to you in person, he was real soft-spoken. You didn't hear that old rough voice he used on TV.
Right. So, Chief, tell us, what made you decide you wanted to be a promoter? What was the impetus of that?
Well, like I say, back in those days, we was working for so many independent groups. I wouldn't even know who I was working until I got to the towns, Rick, unless I got a newspaper to see who I was wrestling. I didn't know all these groups. I got my name out there, and I guess it's because I was doing the Indian gimmick, so many called me wanting me to come in, and just wanted to do something around home. There wasn't nothing going on around the Spartanburg area, you know, which I've run as a regular shows. I've run Landrum and Union and a couple of towns in North Carolina, and run Chesney, South Carolina, and New Prospect, where I had the Shamrock Cafe and the arena up there. I just wanted to do something at home, Rick.
Yeah, and you were drawing pretty good, I remember, over in Chesney, and especially over there at that Shamrock. That's where your first TV was done at, right?
Yeah, well, I've always had a good following, and, you know, that was probably in, I don't know, late 90s when I started that up, and here it is, 2010, and I've still got the same fans coming to my shows. Yeah,
and I know that they were very loyal and very vocal over there. Now, you've ran pretty much consistently, I mean, a good 10 years, right?
Well, 20 years now. I worked for the ACW. They was out of Rockingham, North Carolina. They was sponsored by Hooters, and that was a good thing, and that's where, you know, the Hardy Boys worked for them and a lot of the other guys. I just, when they shut down, I had got used to the regular work for one group, and I liked that, where you could do storylines and stuff like that instead of just spotting shows here and there across the country.
Yeah.
So I come back to Spartanburg. That was American Championship Wrestling, and I always loved that name, and so I kind of went with American Pro Wrestling just to shorten it up a little bit, which I've run SCW and NCW, and I probably had 10 names of shows through the years, big-time wrestling, before I finally settled in and stuck with one name.
Right. People talk a lot about you, Chief Eagle, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's said about you, a lot of controversial things about your booking style and all that stuff. But the one thing that can always be said about you, in my opinion, is that regardless come hell, rain, snow, or sleet, you're going to be running the show every Saturday night.
Every Saturday night, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We've missed one show in the building we've been in. We've been there 9 years, and we've missed one show, and I don't remember why. It was a death in the family or something years ago, but we didn't have a show one weekend. Yeah, we've been consistent.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you've had a lot of people come through there, too. Tell us real quick, we're coming up on a break here, and we'll catch back up after the break. But tell us real quick a few of the names that you've had over there in Spartanburg come up and work your show for you.
Well, we've had Nikita Koloff, Ricky Steamboat, one of my good friends, Greg Valentine, I've stayed in touch with, got tied up with through the years. I've had the Rock and Roll Express, Buddy Landale. Lord, my mind ain't working, Rick. Quite a few more that I'm probably not even mentioning, you know, quite a few of them.
Well, I tell you what we'll do, Chief. We'll back off here a little bit, let you regroup, get your collect your thoughts, maybe hit another swig of that fire water, and we'll take a quick break.
Okay, that sounds good. I was looking for this break.
All right. We'll come right back. More Inside Wrestling Radio with Chief J. Eagle coming up next.